the secret to succeeding without trying too hard. Let's start with a question. What if everything we've been taught about success is wrong? We live in a world that constantly tells us to work harder, to hustle, to push ourselves to the absolute limit. It's a world that glorifies exhaustion as a badge of honor, where the grind becomes synonymous with achievement. But what if I told you that there's another way? A way that doesn't involve burning yourself out, where success comes not from trying harder, but from aligning yourself with something deeper, something more intuitive. Think for a moment about the times in your life when you've succeeded without really trying. Maybe it was that exam you aced without studying too hard, or the job offer you received just when you stopped stressing about it. These are moments that seem almost magical, where everything aligns in such a way that effort feels effortless. But is it really magic, or is there something more profound at play here? You see, we've been conditioned to think that success is a direct result of hard work, and while effort is certainly important, it's not the whole story. I want you to consider this idea: success is not purely the result of effort, but of alignment. When we align ourselves with the right conditions, whether that's our internal mindset, our external environment, or the way we approach opportunities, suddenly things begin to flow. It's like swimming with the current instead of against it. The energy you exert is the same, but the results are vastly different. But what does it mean to align? It's about becoming attuned to the natural rhythms of life, understanding when to act and when to step back. Think of a cat, for example. When a cat hunts, it doesn't chase mindlessly. It watches, it waits, and then, in a single, graceful movement, it strikes. There's no wasted effort. Every action is purposeful, efficient. The cat doesn't try too hard, it simply knows when the time is right. The question for us is, how do we cultivate that same sense of timing in our own lives? How do we know when to take action and when to let things unfold on their own? This is where philosophy comes in. Thinkers throughout history have grappled with this balance between effort and surrender. The Stoics, for example, believed in focusing only on what is within our control and letting go of everything else. The Taoists speak of wu wei, or non-action, which doesn't mean doing nothing, but rather acting in harmony with the natural flow of the universe. In both philosophies, there's a clear message: success is not about force, it's about flow. But let's bring this back to something practical. Let's say you're working toward a goal, maybe a career milestone or a personal achievement. You've been grinding, giving it everything you have, but somehow the harder you try, the more elusive it becomes. You start to feel frustrated, maybe even defeated.
Click subscribe to this channel to get more profound spiritual lesson.
Here's the secret: sometimes the very act of trying too hard is what's blocking your success. When we force things, we create resistance. It's like trying to squeeze water from a rock. The more pressure you apply, the less you get. But when you relax your grip, when you stop trying to control every little detail, the water begins to flow. This doesn't mean giving up. It means shifting your focus from effort to alignment. Ask yourself, am I pushing against something that can't be moved? Am I exhausting myself in ways that aren't helpful? If the answer is yes, it might be time to step back, to reassess. Sometimes, the most productive thing you can do is nothing at all. In those moments of stillness, clarity emerges. You begin to see opportunities that were invisible before, simply because you were too focused on the wrong things. Think about how many times in history breakthroughs have come not from relentless effort, but from moments of inspiration. Archimedes had his eureka moment in the bath, not at a desk. Newton discovered gravity while sitting under a tree, not while furiously scribbling notes at a lab bench. These moments of insight didn't come from trying harder, they came from being open, from allowing the mind and the body to relax into a state where new possibilities could emerge. So, what's the takeaway here? Success is less about how hard you try and more about how attuned you are to the moment. If you're fighting the current, you're going to tire yourself out. But if you learn to navigate with the flow, if you learn to listen to the subtle cues life is giving you, you'll find that success comes not from struggle, but from ease. But let me ask you something, what would happen if you stopped trying so hard right now? Could it be that the very thing you're chasing would come to you more easily if you just step back for a moment? Could it be that success is waiting for you to stop resisting and start aligning? Aligning with the flow of life, the art of effortless action. So, we've started to uncover this idea that success might not require relentless effort, but instead, a kind of effortless action that comes from being in tune with the world around us. But how do we actually practice this in our everyday lives? How do we shift from a mindset that values constant effort and control to one that trusts in the natural flow of life? Let's think about the concept of Wu Wei again, which is commonly translated as non-action or effortless action. But it's important to understand that Wu Wei doesn't mean literal inaction or passivity. Far from it. It's about acting in a way that is perfectly aligned with the situation at hand, where your actions feel natural, unforced, and deeply connected to the moment. Think of it like surfing. A good surfer doesn't fight the wave, they ride it. They're attuned to its power, its rhythm, and they move with it, not against it. Now, let's apply that concept to something more familiar. Think about a time you were working on a project that really excited you. Maybe it was a creative endeavor, or maybe it was something connected to your work or a personal passion. In those moments, you probably felt a sense of flow, a sense that time had disappeared and the work wasn't even work anymore. You were fully immersed, and everything seemed to come together almost effortlessly. That's what we're talking about here, moving into a state of flow where your actions seem to glide, where effort and outcome are perfectly balanced. But how do we get there? How do we cultivate that state of effortless action in a world that seems to demand constant hustle? One answer lies in understanding the relationship between intention and attachment. You see, it's not that we shouldn't have goals or aspirations. Intention is important. It gives us direction. It motivates us to pursue the things that matter. But the problem arises when we become attached to the outcome, when we grip so tightly to a specific result that we lose sight of the process itself. Imagine you're planting a tree. You can't force it to grow faster by pulling on its branches. It grows in its own time, according to the conditions around it: sunlight, water, soil. Your job is to create the right conditions, to tend to the tree, but not to control its growth. In the same way, when we pursue our goals, we need to focus on creating the right conditions for success, developing our skills, showing up consistently, being open to opportunities, but we can't force the outcome. We can't be so attached to a specific result that we lose our connection to the process. Here's where the real wisdom lies: when we release our attachment to the outcome, the process itself becomes the reward. And paradoxically, it's often when we let go of our need for a specific result that the result we want actually shows up. It's as if the universe responds to our trust, to our willingness to let go of control. There's a kind of magic in that surrender. But this isn't just some abstract idea. There's neuroscience to back it up. When we're overly fixated on a specific outcome, we activate the brain's stress response. We become anxious, we narrow our focus, and we actually limit our ability to think creatively and solve problems. But when we relax, when we trust the process, we enter a state of calm that allows our brain to function at its best. We become more open to new ideas, more adaptable, more able to see opportunities that we might have missed, when we were too focused on controlling everything. So, if we want to succeed without trying too hard, we need to learn to balance intention with detachment. We need to set our goals, yes, but then we need to let go of our need to control every little detail. We need to trust that if we're aligned with the flow of life, if we're taking action that feels natural and unforced, then the results will come in their own time. But this raises a deeper question. What if the success that comes from this approach doesn't look like the success we originally imagined? What if, by letting go of our attachment to a specific outcome, we open ourselves up to something even greater, something we couldn't have foreseen? Life has a way of surprising us when we stop trying to micromanage it. Sometimes, the path we think we're supposed to be on isn't the path that will actually lead us to where we need to go. By staying open, by staying aligned with the flow of life, we allow ourselves to be guided towards something even better. So, as you move forward, I want you to ask yourself, where am I gripping too tightly? Where am I trying to force an outcome rather than trusting the process? And what might happen if you let go just a little and allowed things to unfold more naturally? Letting go of control, trusting the process, and embracing uncertainty, let's dive deeper into this idea of letting go, because it's one of the hardest things to do in a world that constantly pushes us to be in control. We're taught from a young age that if we want something, we have to go out and get it, to force our way through obstacles, and to always have a plan. But life is rarely that simple, right? It's full of twists and turns, unexpected moments, and outcomes that we couldn't have predicted. And yet, we still try to control every step of the way. Why is that? Why do we cling so tightly to control, even when we know deep down that so much of life is unpredictable? Perhaps it's because uncertainty is uncomfortable. We're wired to seek security. We want to know what's coming next, and we want to believe that if we just work hard enough or plan meticulously enough, we can somehow guarantee the outcome. But here's the reality: control is an illusion. We can prepare, we can act, we can position ourselves in the best possible way, but there are always factors outside of our control. And the more we try to grip tightly onto certainties that don't exist, the more we set ourselves up for frustration and disappointment. So what's the alternative? The answer lies in trusting the process. It's about recognizing that while we can't control everything, we can control how we show up each day, how we respond to challenges, and how we adapt to changing circumstances. Trusting the process means being okay with not knowing all the answers. It means embracing uncertainty, not as something to fear, but as an essential part of the journey. Think about the most rewarding experiences in your life. How many of them unfolded exactly as you expected? Probably very few. Life rarely follows a straight line. Success, growth, and even happiness often come from unexpected directions. When we let go of our need to control every outcome, we create space for these surprises to enter our lives. We become more open, more flexible, more resilient. Now, this doesn't mean we should sit back and do nothing. Trusting the process isn't about passivity. It's about understanding that there's a balance between effort and surrender. You still have to plant the seeds, but you don't have to keep digging them up to check if they're growing. You water them, you tend to them, and then you let nature take its course. This brings us to another important point: trusting the process requires patience. In a world that glorifies instant gratification, this can be incredibly difficult. We want results, and we want them now. But real success, the kind that's sustainable and meaningful, takes time. It's a slow burn, not a quick spark. When we rush things, we often end up with outcomes that aren't fully formed. We cut corners, we settle for less, or worse, we give up before the real magic has a chance to happen. So, How do we cultivate this trust? It starts with shifting your mindset from one of scarcity to one of abundance. A scarcity mindset tells you that time is running out, that opportunities are limited, and that if you don't control every detail, you'll miss out. But an abundance mindset recognizes that there's enough time, enough opportunities, and enough success to go around. It trusts that if you stay committed to the process, if you show up consistently and with intention, the right outcomes will eventually come to you, maybe not in the way you expected, but often in ways that are even better. But here's the ultimate question: what if the process itself is the point? What if the real success lies not in the final outcome, but in who you become along the way? When we let go of the need to control everything, we allow ourselves to be transformed by the journey. We learn patience, resilience, and adaptability. We develop a deeper connection to ourselves and to the world around us. And in the end, that might be the greatest success of all. So, as you move forward, ask yourself, am I willing to trust the process, even when I can't see the full picture? Can I embrace uncertainty and allow life to unfold in its own time, in its own way? Redefining success, the internal journey vs. external outcomes. As we come to the final part of this journey together, it's time to reflect on what success really means. Up until now, we've been discussing how to align with the flow of life, how to trust the process, and how to let go of the need for control. But all of this leads us to a much deeper question: what is success really? For most of us, success is something we've been taught to measure externally by wealth, status, achievements, or recognition. It's the promotions we get, the money we earn, the accolades we collect. But if we look closely, we can see how fleeting and, at times, hollow these external markers can be. They're temporary, subject to change, and often outside of our control. One day you're on top, and the next, circumstances shift, and you're back where you started. So, what if we could redefine success? What if, instead of measuring it by external outcomes, we focused on the internal journey? Success, in this sense, wouldn't be about what we achieve, but about who we become along the way. It's about the growth we experience, the wisdom we gain, and the peace we cultivate within ourselves. Let's take a moment to explore this. Imagine reaching the pinnacle of your career, achieving every goal you set out to accomplish. But along the way, you've sacrificed your well-being, your relationships, and your sense of self. Is that true success? Or imagine the opposite: you don't achieve everything you set out to do, but in the process, you become more patient, more resilient, more compassionate. You learn to find joy in the small moments, to trust in yourself and the flow of life. Isn't that a form of success, too, perhaps an even greater one? This isn't to say that external achievements don't matter. They do, and they can bring fulfillment and joy, but the key is not to be defined by them. When we make external outcomes the sole measure of our worth, we're setting ourselves up for a life of constant striving, never feeling like we're enough, because there's always more to achieve. But when we shift our focus to the internal journey, we start to see success as something that's always within our reach, because it's about how we engage with life, how we respond to challenges, and how we grow through every experience. Here's the paradox: when we focus on our internal journey, external success often follows naturally. When we're aligned with our values, when we're patient, adaptable, and present, we tend to make better decisions. We're less likely to burn out, less likely to sabotage ourselves. We move through life with a sense of ease, and that ease creates space for opportunities to come to us. But even when they don't, we're still at peace, because we've detached our sense of self-worth from external measures of success. So, as we wrap up, I want to leave you with this question: what kind of success are you really after? Is it the kind that's defined by external achievements, or is it the kind that's rooted in personal growth, inner peace, and a deeper connection to the world around you? Ultimately, the secret to succeeding without trying too hard isn't about giving up on your dreams or ambitions. It's about redefining what success means to you. It's about understanding that the journey itself is as important, if not more so, than the destination. It's about aligning with life's flow, trusting the process, and allowing yourself to grow in ways you never imagined. So, as you continue on your path, remember that success is not just about what you achieve, it's about who you become. Keep showing up, keep trusting, and allow yourself to surrender to the journey. In doing so, you'll find that success, in its truest form, is already within you. Thank you for watching, and I hope this message resonates with you wherever you are on your journey.